Hi, welcome to the Sacred Secret Society. I wasn't going to do this because I had already thrown my hair up, and I just have decided I don't really care. I'm not trying to make this a perfect podcast or um, in any way. I have been trying the editing thing for a while, so not that great at it. Still don't really understand it. So you're just getting me without any filter, without any edits, just me. Um, I am calling this channel the Sacred Secret Society as a homage to Emma Smith, who started the Relief Society for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints almost 200 years ago, and also for the fact that I was always told that I couldn't know certain things because they were sacred. Well, now I know that that's not true. And if you want to know what the sacred secret is, it really is just going inside and looking within yourself, working on you, finding having those dark nights of the soul, and really getting to the bottom of what makes you tick and what is best for you. And over the past few years, I've really felt like this is what I need to be doing. So here I am. It is not going to be the prettiest podcast or thing to watch, and that's fine. You don't have to watch if you don't want to. But I think we really need to discuss the topic that is really going around right now, which is these files that were released in a horrible way because they really don't want us to figure everything out. They have always put this out there like it is just about the SRA or carpooling, we'll say, but there's so much more to the situation. That is literally just the tip of the iceberg. And if you haven't looked through these files, you don't want to look through the files, I completely understand. I did not think I was going to be getting into the files until I saw the whole liquid life force that was needing to be sent every week to him in order to get tuition paid. And some people want to brush this off. Apologists want to say that that's not really it. We're taking it out of context. But I think we all know there's something here. Genealogy is a very big deal in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. If you don't know, they got a lot of records from the Yahtzees that came over after the fighting that they had in the mid-1900s. Well, I don't know if I completely believe any of the history that we've been taught since our history books came from a Mr. Maxwell, and they like to bend the truth and the reality of our past. So I want to help break down some of these lies and get to the bottom of the reality that we're living in. Because if we don't change the reality that we're living in, it's going to be that much worse for our children and then their children. And I'm just not willing to sit down or lie down and let that happen. I want my girls to have a life, and they deserve that. And so I really want to go over the Constitution soon because I really think that people need to get a grasp on what it is to be an American and what it is to own the government, even though they don't want us to believe that we do. There are laws being passed all over the place right now that where it's completely going against the First Amendment, freedom of speech. That is the number one thing that we have. So let's talk. Let's talk about it all. I'm going to have so many people who disagree with me. I get pushed back all the time, and I'm fine with that. Push back all you want, and we can have these discussions. And a lot of people don't want to have the discussions because once you leave, you're an apostate. So people who are still in are not supposed to talk to those who left. And after being out for as long as I have been, I finally know why. They don't want you to know the truth. Well, the truth is that the biggest problem in this so-called church is the ABUSE that happens. And it happens on so many levels that you shouldn't be shocked anymore that it's a thing and that it is so pervasive. And there are a lot of reasons behind that. And so we're going to get into some of those reasons so that you can really start to understand. You need to let go of the cognitive dissonance, and you really need to listen to your gut on this. Don't seek outside sources for answers, because it's all within. That sacred secret, it's within you. Okay. So the biggest case that I remember really coming out was with the Boy Scouts of America. And when I was young, there was a man in our ward by the name of David Brown. And he was the leader of a Boy Scout troop, and he had got arrested. And there were a bunch of computers that they seized, and I don't know much of the details. I just remember when it happened. And I remember because my brother was really good friends with his son, and so I was concerned for anything happening there. And I did ask him, and he said no, but I'm still heartbroken for anybody that this man did hurt. And if you are one of those people and you would like to share your story, I would love to talk to you, because we probably know each other. It's a small world here in the Garden of Eden, and most of us know each other even by just our last name. That's just kind of how it works. Brother and sisters, so Brother Brown went to jail, and I think he's out now or about to be. I haven't looked at the case lately, but it was pretty bad. And I remember we weren't really supposed to talk about it. You just, brush under the rug, keep it quiet. So when it came out that there were so many cases with the Boy Scouts of America, I can't say that I was really surprised, because I saw it firsthand in the ward I lived in. Okay. There are so many ways that abuse is present in this religion in multiple ways. So, for example, grooming. Grooming is a type of abuse. And when you are young, you are groomed from birth. You are taught to get up and tell your testimony on the first Sunday of the month, which is called Fast and Testimony Meeting. On Sunday, you're supposed to fast all day, and you're encouraged to get up and bear your testimony. Well, when you're a little kid, your mom and dad go up with you, and they whisper in your ear exactly what to say. Most of the time, it goes something like this. I want to bear my testimony. I know that the church is true. I love my mom and dad. I know God loves me, and I love him, and I'm so grateful to be a member of the one true church on the face of the earth. And I know Joseph Smith was a true prophet, and I am so grateful that he restored the gospel, the true gospel of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Something along those lines. Sometimes you get, as you get older, you get those rogue ones that come up and just kind of like say all sorts of things. So if you would ever like to talk again to me, I don't think I did this earlier, but I do have an email you can reach out, the Sacred Secret Society at proton.me. And I would love to hear from you, good or bad. Tell me how you feel. I've had lots of conversations with lots of members because I've been posting on my Facebook for a long time, and they don't really love what I say and what I do. But if I can plant that seed for you to eventually come back and maybe listen to some of the things that I have learned or other people have learned and are putting out there, then I've done my job. At least you have a little bit of the tools to come out with more footing underneath you than I did, because I did not have any. In the early 2000s, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have lots of resources out there like we do today to be able to band together and change some things. So anyway, specifically with abuse, a really big problem with this religion is the narcissism and the egotism. There's the perfection, if you're righteous, then everything is perfect. And so you always have to have that perfect face on, and everything has to be perfect because that means you're worthy and that means you're doing things right. So even if they're not great, you put on that smile and you pretend that everything's okay, because then that means that you're being blessed and that God loves you more. It's almost like a competition. There was somebody the other day who was like, Mormons are always trying to one up each other, and that's why you're always trying to be the best. And when you have a tiered life where you are either going to the celestial kingdom, or you're going to the telestial kingdom, or you're going to outer darkness like me, because I'm an apostate and I left the true gospel, then there's always going to be some elevated egos. Okay. And narcissism is just kind of a symptom of this religion. Another problem is that they believe you're going to become a god one day. The whole point of being here is to be tested, to see, and to basically earn your way to having your own planet one day. So it creates this grandiose sense of entitlement. And you could see that if you watch the Lori Vallow Daybell case, in her closing remarks of and her being her own lawyer. She is one of the worst human beings on the planet because she killed her own children. And when you get to that point, there is nothing that can bring you back from that. Kind of like the whole CSA that we're dealing with right now. And the SRA, which is also a big deal and we need to talk about. And a lot of people are trying to brush off like it's not a real thing. Like it's just like the satanic panic in the 90s and it's not real. Well, then you haven't done your research and you really haven't listened to these victims, and you are putting on those blinders because you don't want to look at it. And I get it. It's not easy to look at. It's hard and it's not fun. But if we don't look at it, it's just going to continue to get worse, and that snowball is going to get so much bigger down at the bottom of the hill. And again, I don't want that for my girls, and I really don't want that for humanity. Not just my children or my nieces and nephews. I want it for humanity. So basic, like I was saying, there are so many types of abuses, and that egotistic, narcissism, grandiose mentality can really bring neglect onto the children when you think that you're better than, and your kids are just kind of an extension of you instead of actually being their own person. That creates a lot of issues. So specifically for me, I had 7 siblings and I was the second to youngest. So I think by the time they got to me, they were just tired. And I don't blame them. They were both working. I remember my mom, she tutored, so she would have people come over after school and she would tutor for extra money because we struggled. Well, we also gave 10% of our money to a corporation. So that could be part of the struggle. And it's supposed to make you stronger and it's supposed to make you better. Well, little do most people know, they are hoarding it in the stock market. Which leads to the SEC fine, and that'll be my next conversation. Is we're going to go over the actual ruling that came out from the court. We're going to read the court documents so that people can hear it straight, from the document, what it is that they did. It is egregious, and it's abuse. It's financial abuse. They siphon from their members to put in the stock market, and it's very sad. The Widow's Mite is a great resource. They have started to kind of be watchdogs And since the church does not have any transparency in their financial business, then they started kind of tracking it themselves. And so they keep a very close eye, and they're doing some great, great work. They're doing like the real Lord's work, like the good Lord of light, not the other Lord that some people say is Lord. So, yeah. Anyway, abuse, neglect. There's financial abuse. There's also, of course, the physical, where we're dealing with that right now, and the sex abuse, which is so pervasive, and most, I think it's like 1 in 3 women have experienced it. I've experienced multiple kinds of abuse, and like I was saying, growing up, it was not, I don't believe I ever had that type of abuse. I don't remember a lot, and I know that there are others who were close to me that did. So I don't know. Again, I don't think that it happened to me, but I was very neglected, and I was a very depressed child, and I really did not want to be alive for a long time. And I am sad that it's still happening, because basically I wasn't told I was worthy enough. I asked too many questions, and if you don't believe, then you're not worthy. So they always turn it around on the member. It's always the member's fault. And that's the Darvo effect. Deny, attack, reverse, victimize, and then offend. So they're doing the exact same thing. They're saying that you're doing the thing that they're doing to you. That is the master manipulator's tactic. So they get you very confused and make you think it's all your fault. And for literally almost 30 years of my life, I thought it was my fault that I did not have a relationship with my family, that I was the one who left, so it was my choice. So therefore, I deserve everything I get. No relationship, and every heartache, and every holiday alone. Like, that was my choice, so it's my fault. But then they have songs like Families Can Be Together Forever, where can is the key word there. Through Heavenly Father's plan. Okay, so only if you stick on the straight and narrow and hold on to that iron rod, that's the only way. If you stay with Nephi, who was actually the bad guy in the Book of Mormon, if you really read it, because he was the one who went in and pretended to be somebody else, and then, did that to Laban to get the golden plates. And how is he the good guy? Okay, just really think about things. Like, we're taught to just believe and go along with it instead of asking questions, because when you start asking questions, you start to unravel the yarn that is in a knot, and it is messy. It is really, really messy. So I remember, I got the vitiligo, like I mentioned last time, after close around my baptism, around that time. And I really went through a lot of self hating. I just really did not like myself. I really enjoyed cutting, just to relieve the emotional pain that I was feeling. Like, that physical pain made me feel better. So if you've ever had to deal with that, I'm so sorry. I get it, and it's not the way. You can change it around. It just takes a little bit of work to get there. And a lot of it comes from shame. These people tell you you're not worthy, and they make you feel like it's all your fault, when really they are just transferring that shame to you, where instead of holding that shame that they're supposed to have, they make you feel ashamed and keep you on that lower vibrational state. So you have to rise above that and mentally talk yourself out of believing what they're telling you. And again, it takes some work, but you really can get there. The biggest problem is the secrecy. Everything that happens in darkness will come to light. And everything that is kept a secret, usually when somebody tells you they want you to keep a secret for them, it's for nefarious reasons. And sacred things are not secret. They are things that you can learn and find out all on your own. You just have to go within yourself to find it. You need to not look for external sources to give you the answers. And it is harder. Yeah, you have to do the work. You cannot just blindly follow along. Otherwise, you get to the point where we're at today where, you're not supposed to talk about politics or religion is kind of how I was raised in the 90s. Like, we don't talk about that. If you're different, if you think differently, like, keep your differences over there. And I think that has exacerbated now with the internet, because now they're putting us in silos and the algorithms to where you'll only see what you want to see, and everybody is staying in their little bubbles. And we don't progress that way. But that's exactly where the deletes want us, is not progressing and fighting with each other over stupid things that don't matter, instead of banding together, standing up for what we all can. Like, if we can all agree on one thing, it is that hurting children is not okay. And I don't know, like, if there's somebody here still listening to this that needs to hear it. Hurting children is not okay. And I will fight tooth and nail anybody who has to defend these motherfuckers for things that they have done, because it's disgusting and it's evil and it's horrific and it's demonic and it needs to go. And we need to hold these people accountable so that it ends. If we don't do it, again, it's going to be worse for future generations. And I will not idly stand by for it. I'm not going to do it. Like I wrote here, my mind became a terrible place since I wasn't worthy of anything good. Know that is now all bullshit that they put in my head, that they programmed into my mind to make me believe that I can't do something like this. I can't sit in front of the camera and tell my story and talk about it because it's shameful. Well, I'm not ashamed. You should be. This organization who claims to be of Jesus Christ should be ashamed. And I think the dam is starting to crack, and they have completely lost the plot. Their masks slipped off back when they pushed everybody to get these. And I think that really has come back to bite them. And I couldn't be more happy about that, to be honest. The personal abuse that continued after leaving was through a couple different relationships that I had with some, there's one person who I just, like, you look back and you're like, what was I thinking? And I know I wasn't. I was disassociating, and I was drinking, and I was partying, and so I wasn't thinking. And somebody gave me attention and showed me love sometimes. But then, I grew up around some narcissism, and this person also had that. So they were, it was just kind of falling into another pattern. It is hard to break the cycle of abuse. And I am proud to say that I am working on it every day. I'm not perfect with my girls, but I will do everything in my power to make sure that they know that they're loved and that they don't fall for pieces of shit like I did, because they deserve better than that, just like I did. Nobody told me that growing up, but I'm going to make sure my girls know that. And I'm going to make sure that I tell anybody who needs to hear that they are worthy. You are worthy. You are a king or queen of your own self. Okay? Like, we need to start taking back our power. And that is the easiest way to do it. That's the fastest way to do it. That's the best way to do it. Go exercise, go touch some grass, go listen to the birds chirping, and really get into your body and listen to your inner gut. because it will never steer you wrong. So one of the financial issues that we have here with the so-called church is the SEC fine from 2023. And at the very end of that, whoever gave their statement to the press said, "We now consider the matter closed." Well, here we are a few years later, and I'm going to bring it up again. I'm going to kind of talk about some things that have already happened and maybe have been a couple years removed from it, but I think it's really important that we hold on to it and we talk about it and not let it drown out, because they drown us so much in so much terror and so much horror all the time that we don't get time to process each thing. And we can't. Like, we have to compartmentalize things or we will go crazy. There are too many evil things to hold on to. But again, we have to look at it. They're hoarding money, and they created shell companies to hide that money. And I will go into very detail about all of that later. But it's kind of this saying that I remember hearing is lying for the Lord. It's a little bit different, you know. They say that they want you to be honest in all your doings, but if you're lying for the Lord, that's different. If you're lying to bring up the kingdom of God, that's different. And so that would be their excuse in this situation. And they just had this grandiose feeling. They are saints, okay? They are exalted. They get their second anointing when they get to a certain level and have a certain amount of money, where their calling is made sure and they're for sure going to go to the celestial kingdom no matter what they do. It really gives you some free passes to be kind of an evil piece of shit. And that's what we're seeing right now with so many people across the board. There are judges, there are fire chiefs, there are prophets who are being called out, mission presidents. Right now in St. Louis, there is a mom whose children are with their abusers because the courts are siding with them because they're good standing citizens, Mormon citizens, and it's disgusting. We have a situation right now in my neck of the woods where there is a family, a mom, a dad, and a son, who are accused of some pretty horrific things against their foster children. So I get really frustrated when people say that this isn't real, because I have seen it firsthand. Not only with this case that I literally am, it's like in my backyard, but some very personal things that happened with a lot of, some people I know. And I'm heartbroken that anybody has to go through the trauma and the heartache of abuse. But I kind of feel like I'm going on there now. But some other abuses where they're talking about your sexual orientation. It is abuse to tell somebody that who they're attracted to is a sin. Like, that is a sin in itself. And it is so sad that anybody would have to deny their own personal feelings for exaltation. Just kind of like the polygamy aspect, which is another type of abuse that we're dealing with here. And they're trying to say that Joseph wasn't a polygamist. Now all of a sudden there was a lot of people getting excommunicated because they're saying that out loud. But polygamy is another type of abuse. Sexual, physical, emotional, like there's a lot of abuse that goes into that. So, the biggest ways that they indoctrinate is through the shame cycle and through the shame transfer, giving that to you, but also through the songs that they sing for starting as a kid. Like I said, you go up and you bear your testimony. Well, they also have lots of songs like popcorn popping on the apricot tree. That really implants some cognitive dissonance right off the bat, because you're singing a song about popcorn popping from apricots, and that doesn't make any sense. So you're training your brain from a very, very young age to believe things that just don't make sense. And we'll go over some hymns eventually here that prove my point about worshiping like a prophet and not really Jesus Christ. I don't know if they have any really songs about Jesus Christ, but they have a few about Joseph Smith and follow the prophet. And that should be like follow the Profit, not the prophet, like some old man who's in his 90s trying to tell you that he speaks to God on your behalf. That's another thing we need to talk about, the new change in prophet here recently, and his first talk that he gave that was horrific and horrible. And I just hope that members will open their eyes and actually see how horrible and horrific it is, so that they stop giving money to this institution. The irony of not supposed to talk about things and then having to tell it all to the bishop, it creates liars out of people. You go and tell the bishop what they want to hear so that you don't have to get punished. There were a couple times when I was a teenager where I had to sit there and pass the tray along, and I could not take the sacrament because I wasn't worthy. And people watch. And so they're like, well, what did she do? And then the rumors start flying, and everyone just gets to talk about you behind your back. So the history, if we don't tell it, is bound to be perpetuated. And it's going to be perpetuated anyway because of all the sects. SECTS. There are so many breakoffs of this church. Like, I need to get a list started because it is very, very extensive. You've got the RLDS that changed to Community of Christ. You've got the FLDS, which is Warren Jeffs, who, if you don't know, you should go look him up because he is in jail for the rest of his life, thank God. And that group is, I think, doing better from the last time I looked into that. But that's pretty horrific stuff in that one. Then you got the lovely King's son. Okay, so they believe kind of like the royals did, where you got to keep that bloodline pure, where you've got the dad marrying their sister. Okay, these things are not okay. It's not okay. But when you realize things like that are happening, and then you see this about the red liquid in our body having to give in to a pint of that to Mr. Disgusting evil man every week for tuition, there's something there. There is something there, and we need to talk about it. So they prey on the vulnerable. And these notes I took a few years ago when I decided I was going to talk about abuse. And those are just kind of the main points that I put. But the praise on the vulnerable one really caught my attention when I read it just now, because I recently found a hit in these files, and I found this book. And this is the author. And I have read through some of it. I still need to read the documents of like all the exhibits that he has presented, and I have that book that I'm going to read next, called The Mormon Mafia and Me by the same man. And he basically had to deal with the lawyers from hell. These evil men who wear a suit and tell everybody that they know best because they're God's anointed. So, just a little preface of this book. When my parents died, I trusted the law, I trusted the church, I trusted the attorneys assigned to protect my daughter's inheritance. Instead, my family was betrayed by all three. What followed was a brutal, years-long campaign to silence me, bankrupt me, and break me, simply for refusing to let a $250 million estate be buried under sealed documents, fake filings, and a courtroom culture that protects the predator and punishes the whistleblower. If we are not dealing with that on a grand scale right now, that's why I'm saying, like, this book is, it's wild what this man has been through. And I stand with this man, and I'm so sorry for what you've been through and for what your kids have been through. But he talks about all of the crimes in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 that can be actually tried in a court of law. This last one says, and finally, the one that's not in the books yet but should be, being shitty human beings. Choosing status over justice, choosing silence over truth, watching a family be destroyed and doing nothing. Applies to every bishop, stake president, probate judge, and neighbor who looked away. Why do people not want to believe this? Because decent people cannot comprehend indecent systems. Because normal people assume the justice system works until it doesn't. Because good-hearted citizens want to believe that their spiritual leaders, judges, and trusted attorneys could never commit this level of evil. But they did. And what they did is pretty disgusting. And it's the financial abuse. It's the physical abuse. It is the emotional abuse. It is basically all of the abuses wrapped up in one little bow gift of these people. These disgusting, evil men. And I'm here to talk about it because when you Google this man's name, you can't find much. They've scrubbed him. And how I found it was that man, that J.E. guy, gets a lot of letters sent to him, a lot of news stories. So the email was just a bunch of stories. And there was a story about this guy. So I go to try to find the article. Can't find it. It's gone. It's been scrubbed. I got the book. I got on paper. You can't erase this. I have it. And I'm going to help spread the word about it. Because this is the shit that people need to know about. And I would suggest for anybody who still thinks that they should pay tithing, great. That's a great practice. Go give that money to a local, independent, community service oriented, something that's going to stay in your community. A nonprofit who you can vet, who actually is honest with the funds that they have and what they do with those funds, and they actually help people. Get with the good people in your ward and say, you know what, this ends here. This ends now. We're going to keep this 10% here in our community. We're not going to send it to Salt Lake anymore. And so much would change so fast. So this is an action call, and I hope that you do decide to take action and stop perpetuating these abuses. Because silence is complicity. And it's consent. And if you pay tithing to them, you are also supporting it. You are helping these men abuse women, children, adults, the elderly. I started as a CNA, and the elderly have always had a very special place in my heart. And it breaks my heart that these people were taken advantage of, and that this family had to be broken up because of it. This church is really good at breaking up families. It's like one of their specialties. And it's disgusting, and it's sad. And there was another letter that went out to We Are the People Utah saying that they couldn't even go to church anymore, even though they were still going to church. And at the very end of that letter, it mentioned something, unless you go through our medical requirements and possible medication, Like, I will get the letter and I will read it to you word for word, but it's wild. Like, for a church to step in and say you might have to go on some medication. What is happening? This church is out of control. And I think that they are because they think that they own the world and they can just do whatever they want because they've been able to do whatever they want for so long. Well, I don't consent, and I hope that you don't consent either. And I hope that you make efforts in your community to make some changes and to bring these people to justice. They need to be stopped, and they definitely don't need any more funding because they're not going anywhere. I wish I could burn it to the ground, but they are too powerful and they have too much money to do that. However, we can make baby steps in the opposite direction by doing those little things, like I said, by keeping that tithing money in your community. Do not send it to Salt Lake. That is a great statement right off the bat. Because I promise you, they don't need it. You probably need it a lot more than they do. And if you don't, there might be somebody in your ward who really, really does. And if they go like up the ladder and try to get it from higher ups, they'll be told, like, maybe you should ask somebody in your family first. Or go bleed the beast. Go bleed the government before you come to us for help. Even though you're giving them 10% of your money. It's pretty disgusting. And I will never stop talking about it. I will never stop talking about their harms. I will never stop talking about the evil that they have been raining upon us for centuries. Almost 200 years this church has been around. But it goes a lot deeper than that. It goes a lot earlier than that. Old Joe did not come from a poor farmer family. He came from some very interesting lines. And they have a lot of interesting things in their family. He was not some dumb farm boy. He was learning Hebrew. You don't learn Hebrew as a dumb farm boy. You don't get your leg saved with a very groundbreaking surgery unless you know a doctor pretty high up. And that doctor was related to him. So there's a lot of things the church wants you to believe that just are not true. And the first thing I saw was on South Park. It was the first time I ever learned about the rock in the hat. And that is how Joseph Smith translated the golden plates that he had. Was a rock in a hat. And I saw the episode and I was like, well, that's not true. I grew up in the church. I would know. Well, come to find out, not too long ago, that last prophet, old Rusty Nail, he went ahead and just put his head in a hat briefly and said it's just like a cell phone. Like he was trying to block out the light so he could see the phone. That is not how they depicted it to us. They told us he had golden plates and they were on a table and there was a scribe sitting across from him. And they couldn't see the plates, so they did always have something in between, like something up, or they were in a box. Like there's all sorts of different things out there floating around about how they handled it, but nobody could see the plates. So they saw them with their spiritual eyes. It is not a good church. And I'm telling you, these things come from a lot earlier, and there's a lot of things to get into, so I'm going to. But if you really want to know a lot of the juicy details before I can get there, go visit the beautiful Heidi Love at the Unfiltered Rise, because she has all the knowledge and all the receipts and all the old books, and we'll shoot it to you straight and tell you the truth. Us women, we kind of like the truth and like to bring things to light, because the more we talk about it, the better things get and the more we heal. And as a collective, that's what we need right now. We need some healing. So I hope you join me on this journey. It's so great to be here. I cannot believe I've been talking for almost 45 minutes now. I hope this makes sense and I didn't ramble too much. But yeah, I am grateful to be alive. It is my joy and pleasure to live another long lasting, wonderful day.